Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Faye. Happy birthday to you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. It's your girl Faith Matini, and in today's video I am going to be sharing with you my birthday prep. So I ended up making my own cake and food for my birthday, and then I just collaborated with my mom so that she can actually host it for me. Now, I remember when I told you guys before that I wasn't feeling the best, but I still wanted to do something for my family because they've been there for me this whole year. So this is kind of my way of saying thank you to them. Even though it's my birthday, I still wanted to say thank you to them for all that they've done for me this year. So on the menu, like, I decided that I was going to make a few different things for this year. So I didn't host for Thanksgiving, so I'm gonna be making turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy. I'm making some Brussels sprouts, honey glazed carrots, corn. I didn't mix the cranberry sauce, but I made sauteed mushrooms, and I didn't make the pumpkin pie, but I did bake my own cake. Okay, so I decided that I was going to make pumpkin pie because I didn't make it for Thanksgiving, and I wanted to actually use the store-bought, which is what I'm showing you here, the store-bought crust, because I was kind of nervous about doing it for the first time. So I bought the store-bought crust thinking that I was gonna be able to just put it together pretty easily, but as you'll see here, I struggled tremendously with this, and it was so frustrating, and I ended up not making the pumpkin pie. So I'm just starting off by measuring the flour mixture from the box, and so it just called for 1.5 cups of the flour, and then it also called for 2 tablespoons of cold water and 2 teaspoons of cold water. So I tried to just stay within those, those requirements, thinking that it was gonna work. And I actually watched another video to see how it would turn out, thinking that, oh, I got it, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be easy. I'm just mixing a few ingredients together, and I'm gonna have to start kneading this together, and it'll be perfect. But nope, that is not how it turned out at all. Okay. Ended up losing some footage here, but after I cleaned up the countertop, I started to actually knead and roll the crust. And as you can see, I had actually placed some flour on the bottom so that it doesn't actually stick to the countertop. I kneaded it, and then I started to roll it, but when I did that, it kind of started to tear, so it would get really thin, and then it would tear. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to use parchment paper on the bottom so that it doesn't actually stick to the countertop, and it's going to be easier to come out. But by this time, the flour was a little hard to kind of move, and then it would crack a little bit more easily. I tried to add some water to it, but I also didn't want to add too much because I was afraid that I would mess it up. So I just did some little droplets with my hands just to kind of get it to work a little better, but that didn't work at all. So I decided to add another parchment paper on the top and start kneading like that. So I had parchment paper on the bottom and some on the top to kind of make sure that it wouldn't stick to anything, and it would come off easily. That's what I thought. So here I am rolling it out to the desired size,
and then when I tried to remove it, it wouldn't come off, guys. Oh my gosh. And I ended up doing this like multiple times. I had 2 packets of the pie crust, and I ended up using both of them, just trying to, make it work. And I got so frustrated because I was doing this for quite some time and I was already behind. Okay, I was behind on things because I am one of those people who likes to wait until the very last minute to start doing things. I wait until the very last minute, and then that's when I start to do it, and then I freak out that I don't have enough time. That's me. So I was getting a little frustrated that this wasn't working, because I thought it was going to be just a simple thing to do. I thought it was just, you just roll it out and that's it. But gosh, this is not, it did not work. Let me know in the comments though, have you actually used this pie crust before, and did it work for you? Were you able to, get it to roll out perfectly and, come out without sticking to anything? If you did, let me know that in the comments, because I would love to know how you were able to do it. Okay, so as you saw, the first one did not work. So here I am trying the second one to see how that's gonna go out. So I decided to put quite a lot of flour on this one because I thought that it was going to help with, it's gonna help it to not to stick to anything. And of course the flour dries it out as well. But I just thought, okay, so the other one did not work because I didn't have enough flour. So maybe if I have all this flour, then it's not gonna stick. So I did the same thing. I placed parchment paper on the top and the bottom, just to make sure that, I have that I was making it hard for it to stick to anything and for it to actually roll out smoothly. So then I started to roll it and of course, same thing with this one, but this one, I guess because I had put too much flour, it kind of cracked easily. And as you can see, it's a little harder to roll as well because I had too much flour on it, and then it was just, yeah, it just wasn't working out for me. I was actually planning on trying to do it from scratch, but I couldn't do it. I felt like I had already wasted enough time that I just had to move to the next task. But yeah, it was really, really frustrating. Okay, so after I finally gave up on the pumpkin pie, I decided to get started on the cake, and I'm just showing you the ingredients. I measured everything out so that I can actually get it done pretty quickly and easily. I am making marble cake. I've actually tried this recipe before, and it turned out good, but the cakes got stuck on the pan. So I wanted to try it again to see how it would work this time. I am actually starting by blooming the cocoa by just adding hot water to some cocoa and mixing it up, and then allowing it to sit while I mix up all the other ingredients. So once I got that completely mixed up, then I added 3/4 cups of the buttermilk with the oil that the recipe calls for, and then I also set this one aside as well. And then next I mixed the rest of the milk with 4 eggs and also some vanilla and almond extract. It's funny, I'm actually telling you this as though you're going to be making this recipe with me, but I'm just taking you through the steps that, I took to make this cake. This might be unnecessary to some of you, but if you actually would like to make this cake, because the way that mine came out was not the best, but if you would like to make it, I'll leave the recipe down below for you. So here I just mixed the flour with the sugar and baking soda and baking powder, and I'm just mixing all of that up together, and then I'm gonna start blending everything together. Now that the cake batter is ready, I just separated one third of it to another container, and that was actually a little bit more than one third. And then I'm just gonna mix this up with the cocoa powder that I bloomed earlier to make chocolate. And once I do that, then I'll be able to start separating the butter between my cake pans. Now for my cake pans, I am using this ones. I forget the exact names, but they actually don't, like, you can actually separate them, so it comes apart, which kind of helps with the cake not sticking to the pan. But to be honest, I was so scarred from my previous experience that I decided that I'm going to add parchment paper. And of course, I didn't really do it right. I didn't know how to cut it into like little circles so that it just fits on the bottom. So I had way too much parchment paper on here, which kind of disfigured the cakes. But I really did not want to just cook it without adding some sort of parchment paper, even though the pans separate. I still wanted to add something just to kind of prevent it from sticking, because last time I was so excited about my cakes, and then when they came out, they wouldn't come out of the pan no matter what I did, and that just ruined it for me. So this time I really wanted to make sure that nothing would come out, and in this instance I ended up putting not too much. I didn't put enough of the vanilla butter in here. I should have added a little bit more, because the cake, yeah, it wasn't enough to fill out this whole thing. And I only had two of the cake pans, so I ended up with one that was more chocolatey than the other one. And then for the marbling effect, you just kind of swirl, using your knife, you just swirl the chocolate around, and it just makes these swirls on the cake, and that's how you kind of achieve that marbling effect on the cake. But I ended up not having enough butter on here, as you can see, And guys, at this point I just really just wanted to bake. I wanted to have some sort of cake, okay? So I decided to add some more of the vanilla, thinking that maybe that would still, you know, work, because I could just still swirl that around with the chocolate. But yeah, I messed up on too many levels on this day. Okay, so once my cakes were in the oven, then I moved on to the turkey, and I went with an 11-pound turkey this year, and I am just going to be using a recipe that I used last year. It turned out pretty good, so I'm going to use the same thing, and I'll link it down below for you if you're interested. Once the turkey was out of the bag, I actually did not wash it. I just patted it dry, which is what the recipe recommended. And then after that, I just took out the giblets or whatever comes inside the turkey. And it's funny, I actually had this turkey out of the freezer maybe like 2 days before, and then I had it out on the counter for like about 2 hours, and it was still kind of frozen a bit, and I kind of freaked out. Like I always think that you're not supposed to, you know, cook frozen turkey, but it was just a little frozen on the inside, but I was still able to cook it without any problems. So I just took out what was inside. Okay, so to get started, I am just adding some salt and pepper inside the cavity, and then I also added in some quartered onions, some quartered lemons as well, and sage plus thyme. This recipe also calls for rosemary, but I wasn't able to get any fresh rosemary, so I had to use ground rosemary with this. Once those were inside, then I just gently separated the skin at the top so that I can be able to add in butter. The one thing that I love about this recipe is that it doesn't really call for any basting or anything like that. So all you have to do is just really oil it well with butter. So I'm just kind of separating the skin, and then I'm going to start applying the butter inside and on the top of the turkey. Okay, so I'm just going to be adding on some veggies to the bottom of the pan, and I just added the rest of the onions. I also added in some of the carrots and celery sticks underneath, and then I'm just gonna place the turkey on top. So by the time that I was finishing up with preparing the turkey, I realized that I wouldn't have enough time to cook the turkey and also bake everything else that I needed to bake. So I decided that I was going to take this to my parents' house and have my mom cook it while I cooked everything else, since it was going to take about 2.5 hours. And as I mentioned before, your girl was running late as always, okay? So I was running behind, so I figured it would be better for me to have it cooking somewhere else so that I can have the oven open so that I can be able to use it for all the other side dishes. So once I finished doing this, then I took this to my parents' house. Okay, back at home, and I'm quickly getting started on the honey glazed carrots. So I'm just gonna cut up a few carrots here, and then I'm gonna mix in all of the ingredients for this, which are going to be melted butter, and then I also added in some honey. And with this one, I just kind of added as much as I liked. I didn't really follow the recipe to the exact. And that's usually what I do with most of the recipes that I have. I just do my own thing. And then I also minced in some garlic as well. I added in some olive oil, cinnamon, ginger, pepper, and salt. And then I just mixed this up and placed it in the oven for at about 425 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. Guys, I really loved how this turned out. They were so good, and I'm actually gonna be making them again. I think I definitely added a lot more honey than was necessary, because you can see the honey out, but it was still pretty good. So I'll definitely be making this again. So we're moving on to the maple glazed Brussels sprouts and bacon. Oh gosh, I loved this. I don't know the last time that I ate Brussels sprouts, but I really enjoyed this recipe. It was really good. So I'm just cutting up the Brussels sprouts in half, adding in the maple syrup, some olive oil, a little bit of pepper, salt, and then I just mixed this up, and then I placed it in a roasting pan, and then after that I added in the bacon. And then just mixed it up and placed it in the oven. By this time, my carrots were ready, and this is how they looked like. So I ended up placing this into a tin foil container. As I mentioned before, my mom was the one that was going to be hosting the birthday party, so I just had to cook everything and take it over there. So everything I'm cooking is just going to go into a tin foil so that we can go and eat it over there. So that one finished up, and then I also made some mashed potatoes. I lost some footage when I was making this, but I've already shown you guys how I make my mashed potatoes. It's pretty simple. So I'm just adding in some salt and pepper to this and just integrating that in pretty well. And once that was done as well, I placed that into the tin foil too, and added in some parsley and some butter, and then just close this up and set it aside. Last thing that I needed to make today was the sauteed mushrooms, so I'm just adding some butter and some oil to the pan, and then I added in some minced garlic to this as well, and then I just sauteed this for a few minutes, after which I added in the mushrooms and cooked those in for about 7 minutes until they were nice and soft. And that was pretty much it for all the things that I needed to cook. Okay, guys, so this is how my cakes turned out. Oh my gosh. Okay, as you can see, the lovely parchment paper did leave some holes, and I was like, oh, you know what? That's okay. I can just like fill all of that up with icing. Why not, right? So I am going to start decorating the cake. I decided to go with store-bought frosting this time because I did not have enough time to actually make my own frosting, which I wanted to do. I actually do plan on baking a lot more now, and I will be perfecting my cake making because I want to actually start doing that a lot more, but this time it did not go as well as I wanted it to go. So I'm just adding a little bit of the frosting on the cake stand here just so I can place the cake on top. And then I'm just gonna start decorating the cake. I was so afraid that they were going to fall apart, and it looked like it would. Oh my goodness. But I was able to get it on. One thing that I should have done is I should have trimmed the edges where I had all of those different holes. I should have just trimmed that off, but I did not even think to do that. So I'm just adding the icing on top so that I can be able to add more. And I am actually thinking now that maybe this was not the correct frosting or icing to use for this cake either. I don't know if it was, yeah, it wasn't as thick. I definitely made a lot of mistakes in making this cake. But I added a little bit of that in there. I should have added more. And then I added the other cake on top and continued to decorate both of them. Here I'm just placing it in the freezer for the fast coating to actually harden so that I can add some more. And I actually ended up doing this twice because I ended up doing 2 coats and I wanted them to harden before I put on the fondant, and I wasn't able to actually film the fondant part, but you'll see how the cake looked like once I finished putting the fondant on. So I actually wanted to also add fondant, but I wasn't able to film the video. I am giving you permission to roast me down below on this cake because it does look rough, okay? It came together, but it looks like it's been through some things like I have. It's definitely a representation of my life and my year this year, but this is how it ended up looking with the fondant, and then this is how it looked like the end result. Oh my gosh, I decided to add on some Oreo and whipped cream, but the whipped cream melted. Oh my goodness. But we enjoyed the dinner. It was really yummy. I had a really good time with my family, who I am just incredibly grateful to for all that they've done for me. Like they've just been my rock this year. So we did enjoy. The cake tastes good. It wasn't the best. It could have been better on so many levels, but it was still good, and we enjoyed it. The boys loved it. In the next clip, you're gonna see me cutting. As you can see right now, I'm cutting the cake, and we actually have a tradition at my house where we feed each person the cake when you cut it, whether it's a birthday or something else. Once you cut the cake, then you feed the other people. So that's what we're gonna do. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to leave me a like and a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video and what you could have done differently about the cakes. And guys, I love you and I appreciate you all, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.
Already? That was quick. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Faye. Happy birthday to you. Anything to say for your 29th birthday?
No.
Nothing?
I'm sad that
Happy birthday.
You're not that old. 29 is still young.
Happy birthday to
You. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Faye.
Happy birthday to
You.
Okay, who's going fast? Okay.
Baba, you're the first one.
Alright, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So sweet, yeah?
You like it?
Yeah, it's good. Is it a carrot cake or?
No, it's it's a marble. Oh my goodness, it's marble. It's marble.
Marble?
Marble, yeah.
For mama? Marble for mama.
Sit down.
Sit down.
Okay. This is your fork. This is mine.
Okay, stop.
Oh, thank you.